Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of Jaliek Rainwalker, who disappeared on November 1st of 2007 from the home of his adoptive parents, so the grandparents' house, on the 10 block of Hill Street in Greenwich, New York. At the time he was 12. If he's still out there, he would currently be 28 years old. There's a lot of speculation surrounding the adoptive parents, what they may have been involved with. In any case, I'm looking at a page called charlieproject.org that has quite a bit of information about his disappearance. I'll read you a few things from there. Jaliek was last seen at the home belonging to his adoptive father's parents in the 10 block of Hill Street, Greenwich, New York. On November 1st, 2007, his adoptive father, Stephen Kerr, spent the night alone in the house with him. Jaliek disappeared during the night and has never been heard from again. Kerr says he woke up in the morning and at 7:30 a.m. found a note Jaliek left behind. It read, "Dear everybody, I'm sorry for everything. I won't be a bother anymore. Goodbye, Jaliek." Kerr reported his son missing at 8:57 a.m. He is not believed to have been carrying any cash or credit cards when he was missing. Jaliek had been living with his adoptive parents, Kerr and his wife Jocelyn A. McDonald, for 5 years by 2007. He was born addicted and spent his early childhood in 6 different foster homes. His parents said Jaliek had violent temper tantrums and his 4 siblings were afraid of him, which is a reference to an event that took place shortly before he disappeared. Kerr stated Jaliek had threatened a small child in his homeschool group, and McDonald was afraid of him and no longer wanted him at home, which is something that the grandmother also stated, because McDonald is her daughter, and she had come to her after this event and said, "I don't want him around anymore, the kids are afraid," etc. Kerr said he and his wife wanted to reverse the adoption. The crisis worker said it was not possible to reverse the adoption and suggested respite care instead. Jaliek was sent to the home of Elaine and Tom Person, licensed foster parents who had provided respite care for him in the past. They kept him until November 1st, then gave him back to Kerr, who planned to send him to another respite home for the next day. That was the day Jaliek was reported missing. The person said the farewell note Jaliek supposedly left on the night he vanished was not a goodbye note, but rather a letter he was assigned to write by his father for homework. Kerr allegedly told his son to write a note apologizing to the people he had harmed, and Tom saw him writing it, although he didn't actually read it. Elaine and Tom believe this was the note found after Jaliek vanished. So that is also interesting, because the father, Stephen Kerr, had initially immediately assumed that the note that he found, which may have been a note that the person saw him writing, was a note stating that he was not going to come back ever. But if this was indeed the apology note that the person saw him writing, that's very suspicious. Now, the father is very suspicious according to the investigators as well. And there's just a lot of things pointing towards there having been some issues there, to put it mildly. But we don't have any evidence, and I don't believe Jaliek has been found or anything of his has been found to date. In any case, I was asked to take a look at this case using the tarot, and we're going to start using the Deviant Moon deck, which is currently on the table, which is this one. And for any further questions, moving on to the Santa del Muerte, which is this one. As per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the deck. As soon as I have about a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we're starting off with the Two of Wands in the top left, then the Lovers and the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. So the Two of Wands is usually somebody who wants to set out to go places, travel plans. Maybe it could just be planning things for the future. I kind of see this combined with the Lovers as well, like almost like discussing travel plans maybe with somebody who is on your side. Possibly not on your side though, because when I got the Lovers card, I noticed in particular that this snake over here was biting the person over there in the ankle. And it's kind of like subscribing to a group and being stabbed in the back by said group, something along those lines. Now the Ace of Pentacles is in reverse, so that is an investment, a new investment perhaps, that is ill spent. It kind of feels like that day when he was dropped off and picked up by his adoptive father, that they had a moment together. I believe he said that they went to Red Lobster, the adoptive father said that, and maybe they discussed things there, and maybe there was like high spirits because they had like new plans, new hope, Jaliek did, and that turned out to be an incorrect investment after all, because perhaps there was something working against him here with that snake biting him in the heel. So perhaps even though there were attempts made to make things a fun, pleasant new beginning type of thing, that just wasn't going to be. At least that was a waste of time. We have here the Ace of Wands as well, which kind of reminds me a lot, of course, of the Empress in the sense that it's a very mothering card. We have Death next to that, followed by the Devil. So there is an addiction at work, maybe an ending of sorts. Ace of Wands is a new beginning. And looking at the baby type thing, the pod, whatever you want to call that, it's like there is a new investment being made, there's new initiatives being made, and it may not involve a Jaliek. I feel like this is an end of a chapter coming up. And then we have the Devil here, which is kind of like I said, an addiction, or perhaps just kind of like the more extreme version of the Lovers card. The Lovers is kind of like you subscribe to a certain mindset, you're part of a group, you're part of a club, and the Devil is a little bit more like you're attached to something, and it's more in the direction of a cult type of experience, maybe, if it's not a straight up addiction. So this kind of looks like, combined with the first three cards, there were things set in motion that ended a chapter for him. And it had a lot to do with certain bonds that were perhaps created with other people, because I'm looking at this card here, and it's almost like the torch is carried over to somebody new, that type of thing. Like there's just something that's moving away from Jaliek and towards investing in another person, and then we have this initiative being taken with this Ace of Wands towards that to end his chapter and move on to something new. Next row of cards, we see the Ten of Pentacles in reverse, which I always found a very interesting card here in this particular deck, because you can see that somebody is being used to prop up somebody else's game of chess. And it kind of goes along with what I was just saying, like a new investment in somebody else, and the old person has to suffer because of that, because the Ten of Pentacles is also like a future investment type of thing, an inheritance. So this is going to somebody else, like they are no longer being considered for said inheritance. And not that that was a necessary step, because next card that we have here is the Eight of Swords. So there is a mental trap that people have put themselves in, or at least are keeping themselves in. Then we have the Six of Swords next to that in reverse. So we're taking people away, or people are being taken away against their will, not really wanting to go in that direction. And this is all because of a certain mindset that has somebody in their grips. So there are a lot of suspicions going on about what may have happened that night. I'm not going to repeat all of that because, of course, we had the intro already. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but it kind of looks like a certain mindset had formed against him, and that led to him being taken to this other location that he did not want to go to. And the next person that we see here is the Emperor in reverse. This should be the father figure, but he's in reverse. So we're seeing, also noticing that this staff or whatever it is piercing a creature down there at his feet, whom he's also got his foot on. It's like a small bull here, angry red bull, but it's so small and is being pressed and pierced by this staff that belongs to the Emperor, who's also looking the other way. So we're really looking the other way here, kind of like, I'm taming you and this is how it's going to be. You're going to accept it because I ultimately am in control as the Emperor, as a father figure, the authority, etc. The Four of Cups is next, so that is no longer being able to walk away. It's kind of like, well, emotionally in that sense, like just not having much choices, not really wanting to make any choices because of that. This could be on somebody else's side, like it doesn't have to be Jaliek, it could be whomever did this to him was like, okay, well, I'm actually not going to make any other choices because this is just the thing that I've chosen. We're tossing this cup here that almost looks like it's going to land on that ship, like things are sailing. The ship is sailed. The key to change thing is literally just hanging off of their shoulder, but they're ignoring it. So it's there, it's clearly visible, but they don't want to even consider that an option. And then we have here the Queen of Swords. So somebody has definitely made up their mind. They're very sharp about this, very much determined, because the Queen of Swords is very sharp-witted, like I said, very much mentalizing things rather than feeling things emotionally. You can see that there is a veil hanging in front of their eyes and they look like they're supposed to be sad. The sword has a blood droplets hanging off the tip. So it's kind of like charades maybe, but it's also giving me a vibe of, I feel like I had to do this, like I've thought this through, I've weighed all the positives against the negatives, and this was ultimately the choice that I had to make, like a sort of Damocles, like a what is his name, Solomon, like the Court of Solomon, where these two women were fighting over a child, both claiming to be the mother, and then he was like, okay, well, if you both claim that, then I guess it's half yours, and then they cut the child in half. It kind of has that vibe, like the person whom is being represented by the Queen of Swords in this particular case feels like they had to make such a decision, that type of thing, and they probably feel like they're in the right because they had no other choice, because they thought it through. And I think this is also pointing back towards the Eight of Swords back here, like they're just stuck in a certain mindset that said, okay, this is the choice I have to make. There's no other options for me right now, and that's just what we're going to do. So that is part one. Now, I'm feeling like this is the end of the night of November 1st. The day he disappeared, and now let's see what happens after that. I don't think that he's at the house anymore at this point. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, that one. We have here the Five of Wands in reverse, which is normally like a sparring type of card. You would see five men fairly on equal footing, fighting each other, kind of like hitting the staves in the air, so the wands, I mean, and like not hurting each other, just kind of like trying to test each other's mettle, that type of thing. But this card shows somebody lighting a match, 1 out of 5. It feels very uneven in that sense, like it's not an even fight, it's not an even sparring. They're kind of just effortlessly lighting a match and just watching it burn and eventually peter out, like that type of thing. And there's 4 more matches, so it's kind of an uneven battle in that sense. Okay, what else do we have here? Page of Cups in reverse, so it's definitely a negative surprise, but it's not unexpected because it's in reverse, and they're just kind of dealing with the situation because they expected that was going to happen, like the result of their actions. It's something that they probably had a moment to process, but it wasn't like it was a huge unexpected thing. Like I said, here we have the sun in reverse. I often see that as the sun going down. Sun can often represent a child, or at least somebody who is a light in a life or something along those lines. that is setting in this case. So this may be pointing towards perhaps Jaliek no longer being with us, at least starting from that point forward. We have the Two of Cups here. So this is an interesting card right here. There's a person reaching for the other person's heart, and the other person has their cup basically pouring into the first person's head. This kind of looks like they may have tried to convince whoever did this, convince Jaliek that this was the right thing to do. Like on the one hand, you have the person pouring their knowledge and their mind's view basically into this other person's head, like to try and convince them, because the cups can also be very emotionally manipulative, like trying to convince them that this is the right thing to do, and the other person is reaching for the heart, almost like trying to make that connection, like a last-ditch effort to try and make a connection with this person, like trying to remind them of the connection that they felt like they had, which may not have been true if this other person is more of a mental type of person rather than an emotional one. Oh, here we go. Two cards flipped right there. Knight of Pentacles is fairly methodical. They probably just had things thought out already and then went ahead and took care of that, whatever it is they felt that they needed to do. We have here the Wheel of Fortune, so things are definitely changing. And of course this deck has Reapers for the Wheel of Fortune, so it's kind of like the wheel is turning, and there might be another ending involved in this. So this looks like almost a scene where the person whom is very manipulative has convinced the other person that they shouldn't struggle and fight back, that type of thing, and then they just go ahead and do their thing, which I shall not elaborate on, but I'm sure you can imagine what that is. Then what's? This one flipped off screen, a Knight of Swords in reverse, so Knight of Swords is normally fairly gung-ho. I think in this case that energy is definitely still there, and in a very negative sense. I'm looking at how this is a sword swallower who, of course, even though these people who do actual sword swallowing for like a circus show have practiced for many years to make sure that they are doing it safely, the Knight of Swords is not somebody who spends a lot of time practicing these things, so probably they were fairly careless, also with their words, because of course the swords suit is about words and thoughts, so perhaps the final words spoken were not very pleasant and not very well thought out, possibly hinting at what the true motivation was. By then of course it's too late. It could also be several days, months, years after that we're looking at now, like perhaps the time has passed and this is not the same day anymore, and we're just looking at somebody who tends to speak a certain way that isn't very what people would expect, I guess. Could also just mean twisting the truth. Oh, we have a lot of cards. Okay, let's see. Let's see what we have here. We had a bunch underneath all of this. Let me grab these guys first. We'll get to them later. Oh, there's a whole bunch. We'll get to all of this. Alright, so the next card that actually fell face up here is the Santa Muerte herself, which is the Empress. So we might be looking at somebody who is actually protective in a sense. The crib is empty and the person themselves appears to be pregnant. I feel like this might be the people who actually do support Jaliek. I'm tempted to feel like this is the grandmother, because I did see a short clip of an interview with her and she seems to really genuinely care from what I could see. Next card that fell face up is the Devil in reverse, so this could be a disillusionment, could be on the Empress's side and people like her. I'm pretty sure she's not the only person who is disillusioned right now with the situation, so this could be whomever is ultimately responsible. Not really getting a good reaction from people, not the reaction that they were expecting, because people are kind of like looking through or seeing through the illusion. Let's see what we have here. We have an Ace of Cups, so we have a big storm pouring into a cup. This could be an outpouring of emotions that is happening right now. And I guess this is the aftermath where people are like trying to find him. They're doing everything that they can. Like really an outpouring of support from all angles, because of course it's a fairly wide area that is now being rained upon. Let's see what else we've got. We've got temperance over here, so we're trying to be very tactful. Somebody is, at least. We have to balance our emotions, our thoughts, our words possibly, but mostly our emotions. Just kind of like keep things calm, keep things on the down low. I'm also kind of reminded how of people who might have said something like, okay, Jaliek, I don't know what your problem is. Whatever it is, we can work this through, and just trying to be very calm and collected when speaking in front of cameras that maybe eventually be broadcast to Jaliek if we were still out there, and then like trying to smooth things over, thinking that maybe he did just run away and is looking to stay away because he feels like there's too much trouble to come back, like trying to smooth that over. I feel like this might be an attempt of some people to do that. We have here the Six of Cups in reverse, so this is more like a childhood memory thing. This could be things from the past coming up and that are just not positive memories that are cropping up. Maybe there were people that were just kind of like thinking back on the past and seeing things that they now in retrospect find disheartening. People who initially may have not thought of things too deeply, now looking back at events that they were involved with or that they heard about, and they're now like questioning what may have happened back then, at least emotionally feeling like something's not quite right there. Then we have the Nine of Swords, which is a lot of anxiety. Also, this card is a religious person who looks as though like a priest or something. Maybe feeling like there is a lot of spiritual stress as well. The swords, of course, are words and thoughts, so maybe there's a lot of thoughts. There may be a lot of prayer here, a lot of people praying very anxiously for their return. This is, I think, very much the search efforts. Even when people are not actually physically out there searching, Jaliek is on their hearts and their minds, that type of thing. I think it's pointing towards. Then we have the Ace of Swords in reverse, so now there are words being spoken that will not lead to a good result. I feel like this may be the interview that took place that I saw with the parents, that a lot of people saw and were like, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not sure if this is good. And that probably also really drew the attention, I think, of law enforcement and the like. And then we have the Queen of Swords here again. I feel like this may be a revisiting of the Queen of Swords that we had down here. This one. So this Queen of Swords might be coming back to now perhaps defend themselves, and it could also point towards people who are now seeing all this stuff over here, have witnessed this Ace of Swords, that action, those words, and they're like trying to analyze that, just trying to work through it somehow, and just not really finding that it makes a lot of sense, and they're kind of just like biding their time. They seem to just be keeping their eye on somebody. The sword's not quite out yet, but it's resting on their shoulders, like just in case I need it, just in case I find my way in, I'll be right there, and we'll deal with it whenever we can, like at the earliest possible opportunity. They're just keeping a watchful eye. I feel like they're looking to strike at some points. Now, are we ever going to find anything of Jaliek? Are we ever going to find out the truth here? Let's see what we can find about that. That one. King of Cups. All right, so the King of Cups is somebody who is very close with their emotions. They could be, wouldn't necessarily say manipulative because it's upright. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to manipulate people, but it is somebody who is probably very good at playing their emotions, explaining their emotions, just expressing them in a certain way that may get people on their side. And then we have Justice. All right, so and next is Judgment. All right, so this is actually a positive set of cards to follow that up with, because we were asking for if we're ever going to see anything from Jaliek, if we're ever going to see what happened, and we get a King of Cups. So this may not be the perpetrator. This could be somebody who is on the case. It could be a conglomerate of people who are on the case, who are just in this King of Cups energy, that are just really good at controlling their emotions as well. But we see Justice and Judgment, so I think that this King of Cups, or these people who are represented by the King of Cups, may be instrumental in actually finding out the truth and then calling forth a judgment on the people who are ultimately responsible. And we see here a collection of keys. Like earlier we saw the Four of Cups with the single key that was being ignored. And I feel like these people are just collecting all of the different bits and pieces that they need in order to unlock the ultimate truth, I feel. Are we ever going to find anything of Jaliek? Okay, a couple of cards. We have Queen of Cups and the Five of Swords. Okay, so Five of Swords looks pretty angry here, sticking his tongue out. Queen of Cups, this may be either somebody on their team or in the opposition, because I was about to put them over here, so they may be trying to fight against it. And the Five of Swords is verbal arguing. I don't think we're going to find anything in particular. I think it's going to be almost like a court case where two sides are pretty strongly represented, it seems as though, because we have here a Queen of Cups whom is not quite as strong as the King of Cups. Now, I'm not talking physical strength, but in the tarot, of course, you do have like an order of people gradually being more and more in tune with the energy of that particular suit. Queen of Cups is very good with her emotions as well, but she may not be quite as strong in that sense as the King of Cups, who is, of course, one step higher in the suit. So I feel like even though they're going to try very much to argue for their case, they may ultimately end up losing that battle. So it kind of looks like there's going to be a court case and these two sides are going to be fighting against each other, but ultimately justice will be on the side of people who want the correct judgments to be carried out. At least that's what I'm seeing so far. Doesn't look like we're going to find anything physical. At least I don't see anything of that nature in these cards. But that is what I'm seeing for Jaliek Rainwalker. I hope you found that interesting. Make sure to leave a like and a comment. That really helps the channel along. Subscribing, of course, is also very much welcomed. Let's have this channel growing. I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.